I never expected a simple afternoon at the riverside to change everything. That day began like any other. I had gone there for work, hoping to capture a few peaceful moments through my camera lens for a freelance assignment. The riverside, with its gentle flow and whispering breeze, had always been my place of solitude. I was alone, but never lonely there. The sun shimmered on the water like liquid gold, and I became entirely absorbed in the stillness. Time slipped away unnoticed. I crouched beneath the old iron bridge, trying to get the perfect angle for a shot. Birds flitted above, and the world felt distant, almost paused. My phone buzzed once, a low battery warning, but I ignored it. The light was fading, and I didn't want to miss the moment. Only when the shadows began to stretch long across the gravel did I realize how late it had gotten. Panic flickered in my chest. The area had emptied. Even the occasional joggers and cyclists had vanished. I glanced at my phone, 1% battery. I grabbed my bag, slung my camera over my shoulder, and made my way up the path toward the main road. The nearest bus stop was a 20-minute walk, and with dusk descending quickly, I didn't want to take the risk. I scanned the street, hoping for a cab or any ride. That's when I saw him. A taxi, idle at the curb, its headlights faintly cutting through the rising dark. The driver, a man in his mid-30s with a trimmed beard and worn cap, leaned against the door, speaking softly into his phone. When he saw me approaching, he ended the call and smiled. "Need a ride?" he asked, his voice steady, unhurried. I hesitated. Something about the stillness of the road made everything feel too quiet. But the alternative, walking alone into the night, felt more uncertain. "Yes," I replied. "If you're headed toward West End?" He nodded. "Hop in. I'll take you." I slid into the back seat, trying to shake the unease that clung to me like mist. He confirmed my destination, and we pulled away from the riverside. At first, I stared out the window, watching the last traces of daylight disappear behind the trees. The engine hummed, the roads blurred, and my thoughts began to settle. But something inside me didn't. He glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "You're not from around here, are you?" I gave a polite smile. "I am. Just got a bit caught up with work." He nodded, eyes returning to the road. "This time of day can be tricky." I agreed, though my heart beat a little faster. The air felt heavier now. Something had shifted. I couldn't explain it, but I felt it, like a curtain slowly being drawn over a window. And as the city lights faded behind us, I began to wonder if I had just stepped into a ride I'd never forget. The taxi moved steadily, yet something about the journey felt off-kilter. Outside the windows, the familiar landmarks thinned, replaced by quieter streets and dimly lit intersections. I leaned forward slightly. "This isn't the main route," I said, keeping my voice even. The driver didn't flinch, just a shortcut. The other road's full of construction right now. I nodded slowly, though my instincts resisted the explanation. I tried to open the navigation app, but the screen stayed black. My phone had finally died. A lump formed in my throat. I adjusted my posture, sitting straighter, alert. He glanced at me in the mirror again. "You seemed really lost in your work back there. What were you doing by the river?" "Photography," I replied curtly. He smiled faintly. "Artists always see things the rest of us miss." His tone was calm, but his words clung to the air too long, like smoke in a closed room. I didn't respond. He pressed on. "Do you usually go out there alone?" I looked at his eyes in the mirror, too curious, too focused. "Sometimes. Depends." "Brave," he said, turning the wheel slowly as we drifted onto a narrower road. The buildings grew sparser, and the streetlights were now rare. My pulse quickened. I considered asking him to stop, but I wasn't ready to panic. Not yet. "I'd prefer if we stuck to main roads," I said more firmly. He didn't respond right away. Then, with a short exhale, he turned onto a broader street. Relief touched my chest, if only briefly. but the silence that followed was sharper than before. To distract myself, I reached into my bag and fiddled with my camera. The familiar weight of it in my hands gave me a momentary anchor. I stole glances at the passing road signs, still several blocks from home. It couldn't come fast enough. "You remind me of someone," he said suddenly. I froze. "Oh?" He nodded, eyes fixed on the road. "She used to love rivers, too. Said they made her feel like time was slowing down." I gave a tight-lipped smile. "Sounds like a thoughtful person." "She was," he said, then fell silent. For a moment, all I heard was the rhythmic thrum of tires on asphalt. Then he added, "She left without a goodbye." I didn't know what to say to that. His tone was wistful, but there was something colder underneath. The car slowed at a red light. I saw my street still a few turns ahead, closer, but not close enough. I stared out the window, searching for any sign of life. The city felt unusually still. Like it, too, was holding its breath. When the light turned green, we continued forward, but the mood inside the car had undeniably shifted. I wasn't sure where this road was leading anymore, but I knew one thing. This wasn't just a ride home. Something else was unfolding. The silence grew thick between us, broken only by the occasional blinker click or the hum of passing tires. My hands tightened around my camera as we passed another unfamiliar side street. The city I thought I knew now felt foreign, disjointed. Without warning, the driver pulled into a small parking lot next to a dimly lit convenience store. My heart jumped. "I'll just grab a bottle of water," he said, already stepping out. "You want anything?" I shook my head quickly. "No, thank you." He disappeared inside, the door's chime briefly piercing the air. Left alone, I scanned the interior of the taxi. On the dashboard, barely visible beneath a sheet of laminated fare instructions, was a small photograph. A woman, early 20s, with wide eyes and a subtle smile. Her face held a softness I couldn't explain. I stared too long. The driver returned, holding 2 bottles. He handed one to me through the window. I said no, remember? I forced a polite smile, but didn't take it. He glanced toward the dashboard, then back at me. "You saw her, didn't you?" I hesitated. "She looks familiar." He slid into the driver's seat and exhaled. "She was everything to me. My fiancé. Disappeared 2 years ago. One morning she just stopped answering my calls. No note, no goodbye, just gone." His voice cracked slightly, but not enough to fully convince me. There was something methodical in the way he spoke, like he'd told this story before. "I'm sorry," I said, cautious. He turned to face me, resting one arm along the steering wheel. "You look just like her. Your voice, your face. Even the way you fidget with your hands." I pulled mine into my lap, instinctively hiding them. He smiled faintly. "You probably think I'm crazy." "I think," I replied carefully, "you've been through something hard, and maybe seeing me stirred up old feelings." His eyes narrowed, almost as if weighing my words. Then he chuckled, soft and low. "It's more than that. Being in this car with you, it's like I have a second chance, a way to make it right." A chill crept up my spine. "Make what right?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed the unopened bottle in the cup holder and put the car in drive. "I don't want to lose you too," he said, barely above a whisper. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't want to escalate the situation, but I couldn't let it spiral either. My eyes flicked to the store's entrance, hoping for a witness, anyone. "I just want to go home," I said firmly. "Please." He paused, gripping the steering wheel tightly. A beat passed. Then he nodded, pulled out of the lot, and merged back onto the road. But his silence now carried something new, something unreadable. I was closer to home, yet further from safety than I'd ever felt. The car coasted down the quiet road, street lamps casting fractured shadows across the dashboard. I could feel his eyes flicking toward the rearview mirror more often now. There was no music, no idle chatter, just the growing weight of something unsaid pressing between us. "You're very quiet now," he said suddenly. "I'm just tired," I replied, my voice composed despite the drumbeat in my chest. He nodded. "I understand, but we're almost there." My street was approaching. I recognized the bakery at the corner and the familiar bend in the road. Relief bloomed in my chest, but only for a moment. Instead of turning, he drove past. "That was my turn," I said quickly. "I know," he murmured. I leaned forward. "Then why didn't you take it?" He slowed to a stop at the next intersection. For a second, I thought he might turn around, correct the mistake. But then he put the car in park and turned toward me, fully this time. "I wasn't honest with you," he began. "You see, I didn't just pick you up by chance. I've seen you before." My stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" He leaned forward, voice low. "At the riverside, 3 weeks ago. You were taking photos near the bridge. I remember thinking how much you looked like her. I've been driving that route every day since." Panic rose in my throat, but I stayed still, my mind racing. "So you followed me?" I asked, my tone measured but icy. "I didn't mean to scare you," he said. "I just needed time. Time to understand if it really was fate or something else." I reached for the door handle slowly. "This isn't fate. This is crossing a line." He placed a hand on the driver's door, blocking my exit with a glance. "You don't have to be afraid. I'd never hurt you. I just didn't know how to let go." His words sounded sincere, but sincerity could mask danger. I needed a way out, and fast. "I believe you," I lied smoothly, forcing a soft expression. "But I think we both need space, closure." Something shifted in his gaze, a flicker of regret or calculation. He looked away and slowly released the brake. The car rolled forward, then turned, back toward my neighborhood this time. Relief settled in only when I saw the familiar porch light of my apartment building glowing ahead. As we pulled up, I grabbed my things, heart hammering. "I hope you find peace," I said as I stepped out. He stared ahead, unmoving. "I thought maybe you'd feel something too." I didn't answer. I shut the door and walked away without looking back. Inside my apartment, I locked the door and collapsed, onto the floor, shaking. A ride home had turned into something much darker, a stranger's fantasy, a near miss, a betrayal cloaked in misguided affection. And though I escaped that night, the feeling that someone might be watching still lingers at my window,